Hey there, and welcome to episode 33 of the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast. I am super excited to share this episode with you because it is another amazing guest episode where I am chatting with the lovely Sierra Scacco all about KPIs and IPAs and how understanding them can skyrocket your business as a busy mompreneur. Sierra is a business scaling coach that helps coaches sign more dream clients and make more money in less time by focusing on productivity, team building, and scaling strategies. She is also a wife, a mama to two little boys, and has run her business for almost 3 years, all whilst being at home with them full time. If you're not really sure what KPIs and IPAs are, or the concept of them is new to you, you're not really sure what they are or the differences between the two, and how understanding them can allow you to scale your business and save you time as a busy mompreneur, this is the episode for you. KPIs is something that I have come across previously in my 9 to 5 before I had my business, but I have never thought about actually using them in my business itself in order to accomplish my goals. And this is such a great episode that if you have never thought about using them before, by the end of this, you are definitely going to want to start using them and will be amazed at the difference that it makes in helping you go from surviving to thriving in your mompreneur journey and seeing the success that you know that you deserve in your business. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Unapologetic Mompreneur, the podcast for mums with an online business who are ready to take back their time, home, business, and self so they can restore the balance and thrive, both at home and at work, without feeling like they have to choose between the two. I'm your host, Sarah Dew, life and biz coach for mompreneurs. I'm also a mum, stepmom, wife, introvert, breast cancer survivor, and your mentor for making a change for the better. I've learned how to go from surviving to thriving and unapologetically create a business I love and the life I want for me and my family without worrying about what other people think. And now I'm here to help you do the same. Because being an unapologetic mompreneur doesn't mean that we're selfish or that we don't care about others. It simply means that we are not afraid to show up as our true, authentic selves, to step into our purpose, do what we know is right for ourselves and the ones we love, and take the steps we need to take to make our dream life and business a reality. Join me each week where I'll be sharing all of my best tips and strategies, plus the occasional dose of tough but gentle love to help you feel empowered, motivated, and confident to take action so that you can become the mum, wife, biz owner, and woman you know you are meant and deserve to be. So, are you ready to unapologetically create a business and life you love? Let's do this. Hey Sierra, welcome to the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast. Super excited to have you here.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here.
Fantastic. And we are going to be diving into all about KPIs and IPAs and how they can not only help us scale our businesses, but actually save us time as busy mompreneurs. And I am all about that because there's just so much on our plates, isn't there? And trying to juggle work and home and family life and everything else. Really excited to dig into these and see where we go with them. So before we dive in, do you want to just share a little bit about yourself and who you are, what you do, and how you help people?
Yeah, so hi, my name is Sierra. I am a productivity and scaling coach for mompreneurs. So I really focus on helping those who are ready to grow and scale their business, but want to do it while they have kids at home, why they are trying to juggle multiple roles. Like you mentioned, it's really difficult. And how can you do this as effectively as possible? So I have two kiddos of my own. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 1-year-old, and they are absolute chaos sometimes, but I get to be home with them all the time, and that's kind of where the inspiration for my business came from. So yeah.
I love that. And kudos to having two kiddos under 3. I can remember what it was like when my boy is 13 now, but I can totally remember what it was like when he was that age. So bow down. And that is amazing. And I think that's what it all is about with the mompreneurship, is being able to design a business that fits around family. So the fact that you've been able to do that and build it and scale it like you have with two kiddos at home is just, that is awesome. So yeah, it's it's really looking forward to diving into this. So I'm curious, tell us what KPIs and IPAs are and what the difference is between the two.
Yeah, so there are a lot of acronyms that you hear when you get into the business space. And so to kind of break these down, first of all, we have KPIs, which are key performance indicators. And then you have IPAs, which are income producing activities. So these are actually very different, even though they kind of sound like they might hit similar areas because they do, but they work together to allow you to really scale and grow your business productively. So with your key performance indicators, these are the metrics that you can use to systematically measure and predict your success in business. So you can basically track your progress using KPIs and make sure that you're staying on track. And whatever big goal you have, maybe it's you want to sign 5 clients, maybe it's you want to get 300 freebie downloads, whatever you want your goal is, you can then reverse engineer that goal using your KPIs. You can kind of set up those metrics and track it as you go. Now, with the IPAs, these are income producing activities. So these are the things that are moving the needle forward in your business every single day, and they're directly resulting in money in your pocket. So these can be different depending on like what your specific business model is, but there are like some pretty general similar ones. So for example, things like lead gen. Everyone has to be able to find leads in their business, and so that's going to be something that you should be working on every single day and is also going to relate to those KPIs, right? Because you need to find leads in order to sign a client. Another one might be like content creation or just like anything that is necessary in order to continue moving your business forward.
Love it. And they are so important because it's so easy to focus on the day to day and get bogged down with all of the activities, feeling like we're busy. But actually, the task, and I've been guilty of this so many times, of the tasks that we're doing is, are they actually moving the needle forward and are they getting us closer to where we want to be? And it's really good actually to use both of those, of the KPIs, that sets the goal and what we're aiming for and what we can measure it against. But actually, the IPA is almost like a reality check of actually, am I doing the right things?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And what's really interesting is, like I mentioned, they can work together because what what you might deem to be a income producing activity, someone else might not. And that might be because your KPIs, for example, let's say you wanted to get like a certain number of downloads on your podcast. So
Mhm.
then your IPAs, because of that goal that you've set, is going to be really promoting your podcast every day or recording a certain amount of episodes or getting on a certain amount of podcast interviews or whatever it is. So it's going to kind of shift what you're doing, but like you mentioned, it kind of gets rid of that busy work, right? Like it prevents
Mhm.
you from spending your time on what everyone else deems is important and what is actually important to you in your business.
Love it. And that's totally dependent on what is matters to you most in your business. And I think that's sometimes so easy to get caught up in, is that everybody out there is telling us what we should be doing and we're off chasing the shiny squirrels. Also totally guilty of that. And it's stuff that isn't gonna just move us forward, and actually being in touch with what it is that we want from our businesses and having the vision that we want, and then making sure that the tasks and activities that we are choosing are in alignment with that, rather than, like I say, going and chasing squirrels or doing the busy work.
Absolutely, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. So next question then, how does understanding your KPIs actually allow you to scale your business?
Yeah. So KPIs can be kind of tricky because not a lot of people like numbers. I'm honestly not a numbers person, but KPIs actually make sense because it's like they're little pieces to the puzzle, right? So whatever goal you're going to set, you can then figure out the puzzle pieces, the steps you need to take. And like I mentioned, they can work with your IPAs to then figure out what you're going to do each step of the way, how long it's going to take you to reach your goal.
Mhm.
Um, One of the things that a lot of people do is they set these big goals without realizing how long it's actually going to take or how much work it's actually going to be to reach that goal. I mean, you might have a goal to sign 10 clients this month, which some people can do very easily, right? Like they can just go on their stories, they can post up a post and they'll have those spots filled. But for other people, it's going to take a little bit more work. It's going to take a lot more engagement in the DMs. It's going to take either maybe multiple offers, whatever that looks like for you. And so if you don't realize that everyone's steps are going to be different, then you are going to go into this with these, I don't want to say impossible goals, but they might be a little bit unrealistic for you, your business, the stage of life you're in. And so if you can recognize, okay, I have this goal to sign 10 clients. Is this going to happen all this month? No, like not according to like the past success that I've seen, but could it happen in 2 months?
Mm-hmm.
I might be able to hit it in 2 months. Could I hit it in 3 months? Absolutely. Like I've been able to do it in 3 months before. So then you can kind of learn how to push yourself a little bit and kind of try to push your limits, your boundaries, like challenge yourself, as well as recognizing what is reasonable for me in this time of life I'm in, especially if you're a mom, you have kids at home. Like it might not be reasonable to take on 10 new clients in 1 month and just like overwhelm the heck out of yourself, right? Like we need to find that balance. So that's really where KPIs come in and allow you to scale in a sustainable way.
Awesome. So it's kind of like almost going back to like SMART goals where we're validating it and just making sure that it's realistic and that time bound thing, because things always take longer than we think they're going to anyway, doesn't it? It doesn't matter how long we think it's going to take. It always at least takes 50% longer than we think it's going to. And especially when you've got kids and you throw in sick days and everything else into the mix, it is really hard to forecast to knowing how long something is going to take. And I think a lot of the like overwhelm that comes with the goals that we set ourselves is knowing all the steps and actually breaking it down, and then thinking as well that we need to know what all the steps are to actually get to where we want to be. But to know that you can have things like the KPIs almost being like benchmarks so that it's really super clear. I kind of like that. I think that's a really good way of actually breaking it down and actually using it to support your decision making when you're working on your goals.
Yeah, and you mentioned SMART goals, and I love using SMART goals. I use them all the time. That's how I set my goals for my KPIs as well, like using them, that framework. And what's really cool about using the SMART goals in relation to the KPIs is, like you said, it allows you to create these benchmarks and make sure that you're on track. So a lot of people are visionaries, right? And that's not a bad thing. It's such a good thing to have this big vision for your business and have these great big goals, but learning to kind of put yourself in check, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
bring yourself into the reality. Not that those big goals aren't possible. I am a firm believer that like if you set a massive goal for yourself, you can absolutely achieve it. You just got to figure out how to do it sustainably. You got to figure out how to do it in the timeline that you have, in the abilities that you have right now. It might mean that you have to find additional support or create new offers or try something new. And that's okay. It's just recognizing those and being very aware of what's going on in your business.
Awesome. So would you say in doing that then is like having those KPIs and using those as the benchmarks, but then using the IPAs as like what you're working towards, and actually using them to actually lay it out as so that you know what you're working to, almost like a checklist each day so that you can make sure that you're working on the right things. Is that how you would put them together?
Yeah, yeah. So once you have those KPIs, you have that big goal, you have the benchmarks that you want to hit, you can then take a look at what you're doing in your business and determine, okay, which of these activities are actually going to aid in that goal? Which of these are going to allow me to reach the certain KPI numbers that I need to reach? So, with the example of signing 10 clients, if that means you need to talk to, I don't know, 500 people in order to sign 10 clients, then you'll know, okay, if I want to reach that goal in 2 months, I need to talk to this amount of people every day. And I don't know the number off my head, but you'll be able to like break that down, and it guides you, like you said, with that daily list of tasks, you'll be able to work out exactly what your to-do list looks like. So instead of spending time on, oh, like this person on Instagram says that I need to create a Facebook group right now, and I should be on LinkedIn and I should be starting a podcast. If those things aren't relating to the goal that you have set, they're good things to do. They might be, if you have some extra time, then sure, work on those like extra little fun things, but they're not necessary to your success. So they shouldn't be the first thing that you do when you start working on your business each day.
That's great, because that really sort of takes, there's that overwhelm when you sit down at your PC each morning and you're looking at it thinking, what do I need to work on today? And that's usually when we end up going off down those rabbit holes, don't we? And then,
Yeah.
you start loading Instagram and watching French Bulldog videos if you're me. And, it was just, and not actually making any progress and having that. And I think having to-do lists are great because they sort of list out, what we need to do and what we're doing each day. But actually the IPAs are kind of checking with you, making sure and kicking your butt almost of like, well, come on, you haven't done this today. And it forces you to actually be really super, super focused. And I think also it gives you that permission too of like you said, maybe you need to start a Facebook group right now. Maybe you need to go and do this, that, and the other. That it's that permission slip of actually, no, I don't need to do that right now because this is what my priority is. This is what my focus is. I think that's really, really good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It, like I said, it really keeps you in check. So yeah, I love that.
So if putting those into practice and actually implementing them, how knowing what our IPAs and understanding them are, how does that actually save us time as a busy mompreneur?
So as a mompreneur, you have to really work around other people's schedules. So maybe it's, you can only work when your kiddo's at school, or if you have littles at home like me, you really got to maximize like nap time or before or after they go to bed, or like having activities for them while you are trying to work. And so when you have such limited time, you really have to be focused in it. You have to know exactly what you're doing so that way you're not wasting time on activities like we mentioned before that aren't actually going to move you forward, because that'll take your business from like moving at a consistent pace to taking forever to grow. So that's why when you understand those IPAs, you understand the goals you're setting, you can then reach that goal a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently, because you're able, when you have those moments without your kids, or when you have those focused times, you can really dedicate yourself to the goal that you've set.
That makes so much sense because our time is so limited as mompreneurs and juggling all things working from home and trying to fit it around. And as soon as we also get into a really good rhythm, then our kids do something different or they're in a new phase and a new stage, and then we have to start all over again. So I think knowing that that can save us time and that we have that framework to follow, that when we do have the nap times, when the kids are at school, we can just get straight dive into it and we're not losing that time where we're sitting there flitting and getting distracted, and then we've lost an hour before we even know that we've done it. That's yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy to get distracted, and especially because our time is so limited, when we have those moments, we don't want to like immediately get to work. Like we want to just breathe for a second. We're like, okay, like I have a second where my kids are occupied or where they're at school. Like I'm just going to breathe for a second. And that's okay to do. Like I totally am a big proponent for, taking time for yourself and making sure that you have those moments of self-care. But it's also important to, if you're going to be scaling a business, to be what's the word I want to use? Like not strict with yourself, but just a little bit more focused in what you're doing. So making sure you set those boundaries with yourself, with your time for yourself, with your time for your business, and keeping those boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries are so, so key, aren't they? They're just, we have to have them in our businesses and to, protect our energies, to, choose our own work hours as best we can so that we're not working 24 hours under the sun. Because there's that pressure when we're doing our businesses, especially when we're passionate about something and we want to work on it all the time. But there's also that pressure when you first start out that you have to hustle hard, that you have to be constantly grinding. And I fell into that trap. When I first started mine, I thought I had to work every hour under the sun, and I was working evenings. I would work on a weekend if I could. And it's not necessary. And I think having that framework and having the IPAs there, particularly as that, like, giving us that checklist to what to follow each day to make sure that we're doing things what we need to be focusing on, can really help us actually protect those boundaries and feel like we don't have to work and do all those hours because we can follow. We've already identified what our most really crucial needle pushers moving forward are.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that you share that that was like your story too, because that was very similar to mine. Is like I started and I was like, I need to do all the things. I need to
Mm-hmm.
just jump into this and work all the time. And it's because we're so passionate. It's because we have that visionary mindset of like, I see this goal and I'm going to do whatever I can to reach it. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like there's nothing wrong with having that drive. It's just putting that drive in check and realizing, okay, like there are some things that require your massive dedication, and there are other things that are honestly going to kind of hurt that drive and hurt you in the long run because they don't have a place right now in your business. So yeah, I love that realization that you had as well.
Yeah, definitely. That was definitely something that I went through. And I sat there just one evening and thinking, this is crazy. I've been working all day. I'm now sitting here with my husband next to me on the sofa, supposed to be having family time, time with him because the kids were in bed. And here I am tippy tapping away on my laptop when he's trying to listen to the TV. And it's like,
Right.
no, stop it. And the difference it makes by actually getting super focused and super clear and cutting back your hours. Because if we set ourselves something of, like it's going to take a week, it'll take a week. But if we give ourselves it's
Mhm.
going to be 2 days, we could still get it done in 2 days. And that was a huge like real learning curve for me, that when I scaled things back and I got more focused on what I was doing, and I wasn't using KPIs and IPAs, and I'm definitely going to now, but I was amazed at the difference it made, because when you are focused and you know what you're working on, you learn and realize that you don't actually need to spend all the hours hustling hard and pushing and doing all the things and showing up on Instagram every day and having a Facebook group and everything else. You can just focus on those needle movers. And especially in seasons where other things and pressures on in your life are super, super busy. And I can imagine with you, because they're so young now still, of like the nap times and getting them to sleep, getting them to settle in the evening, they're waking up every 5 minutes and all of that, that you do have to have that being focused time. But actually scaling back and protecting your boundaries like that means, like you said, you get more time for yourself. And if you want to have those 5 minutes where you just want to breathe, you can do.
Exactly. Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Awesome. I'm loving this. I so need to go and work on my KPIs and IPAs now. So, how can you figure out what your personal KPIs and IPAs are in your business? How do you get started with that?
Yeah. So the first thing that you can do, like I mentioned, set your goal. So take some time, really think about what goal would really motivate you, first of all, and then what goal is like the next step for your business. And then once you have that goal, you can then now work backwards. So you can start tracking. If you haven't, like, if you don't have any data tracked relating to whatever goal you're set, then now is the time to start tracking. So if it's signing a certain amount of clients, then start tracking, how many sales calls do I have to get on to sign one client? How many conversations do I have in the DMs? How many freebie downloads do I have to get? Like, just different metrics that relate to actually signing one client. And once you know how many conversations, how many freebie downloads, how many outreaches you have to have in order to sign one client, then you can multiply that by how many clients you want to sign. So it's really just about, first of all, starting to track your data. So if you don't have, like, if you have a spreadsheet, if you have a lead tracker, start using that. If it's a different goal, like if it's the number of like podcast downloads that you want to get, then start tracking, how many times do you talk about your podcast? How many times do you promote it every week? How many people are currently downloading your podcast? And different things like that. And once you have that data tracked, then you can figure out what to do with it. Then you can look at, okay, now I know what my income producing activities are, because I know in order to hit this goal, I have to do XYZ every day. So then let's map out, how many people do I have to talk to? How many times do I have to promote the podcast? How many times do I have to uh, get the freebie, like the page for your freebie, the landing page? How many people have to click on that? And you can then start tracking moving forward. So before you can really do anything, you do have to do a little bit of pre-work. You have to kind of either work backwards if you have the data, or start tracking it. I'd like to say start for just 2 weeks. And as long as you're able to hit the goal that you want to hit in that time, then you can use that data. If not, add on another 2 weeks and kind of just work from there. And then once you have that data, once you are now tracking it, the idea here is to keep getting better, right? So if the goal is to sign 10 clients in 2 months, ideally we're going to want to shorten that, either 10 clients in 1 month, or maybe double it, 20 clients in 2 months, like however you want to set it up. And once you have that data, then you can work forward. So if you know that you need to talk to 500 people to sign 10 clients, how can you shorten that number, right? You have that data from your KPIs. Now let's figure out how to shorten it. How can I increase the odds of someone saying yes? How can I maybe it's how can I reach more people in less time? Just like different, it allows you to think a little bit differently, think a little bit strategically about your business moving forward. I know there's a lot of information. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's actually giving ourselves permission in the first place to actually just spend some time getting the data that we need if we don't have anything, and then taking from that. Because I think sometimes it's so easy to track our stats and talk about different stats and metrics, but are we looking at the right metrics? So we're not just, just looking at how many followers we have on Instagram and all of that sort of stuff. What is that translating to? Is that actually moving the needle forward and getting us to where we want to be. That having all those followers is great, but is that actually turning into leads? Is it actually turning into clients? Is it taking us the direction that we want to go? And to give ourselves time to get those baselines nailed of what we're actually aiming towards, and are we actually tracking the right metrics, the ones that are converting? So like that you said, there's a great example of, you know, wanting more podcast downloads, but how many times am I actually going out and talking to people about my podcast? You know, if you want more members in your Facebook group, how many times are you actually sharing and telling people what's going on in your Facebook group so that they're incentivized to join it? It's those kind of metrics. It's slightly different than some of the traditional statistics that we think about tracking. And, you know, looking at, you know, it's great, I've gained 30 new subscribers this week, but actually, are we looking at the number of subscribers we've gained, or are we looking at the conversion rate of how many times they look on the landing page, to then the number of conversions of how many of the people that have looked at have then opted in? And if that's low, well, then actually, do we need to tweak our landing pages? So it's a really good way of looking at it and getting super clear on those metrics that we need to track. And then I guess just once we've got that baseline of trying it, and like you said, reining it in and then refining it and honing it as we go. And I guess that the more we do it, the better we get at it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you said, kind of finding those holes in the bucket and learning how to fill them. And yes, you do 100% get better as you continue working, as long as you're willing to not just take the data at face value, but like take it and really analyze it. Take some time after. I like to say, like, reanalyze your KPIs once you get started, reanalyze them at least every quarter and figure out, okay, how am I doing in this area? Am I like, has my like views of my landing page gone up insanely high, but I'm still only getting the same amount of subscribers? There's something missing here. And then you can easily, like, people think that growth is, or some people think that growth is really, really hard to do. And when you are actually sitting there and analyzing the numbers, it makes it so just plain to see that this is the exact thing. Now, how to fix that thing might differ, and it might need to like go through a little bit of a trial and error. But if you're wondering, like, why am I not growing? Why am I not signing the number of clients I want to sign? Why am I not hitting the number of downloads I want to hit? Start tracking your KPIs and you will easily be able to see, okay, this is the problem. This is what I can fix. And I am all about finding that thing that like I can do, right? Like I am a doer. I want to take the action. So if I can sit there and I can look at numbers and see, okay, this is the spot, I can fix this. I just have to figure out how to fix it, but I can fix it. Then you can easily just continue to get better and better with your sales, with your marketing, with your podcast, like whatever it is you're trying to get better at, it'll just come.
Love it. Oh, it just makes it so much easier than thought of that. And I suppose regularly checking in on the KPIs means then, and knowing where you're at and finding those holes in the bucket, would you then adjust the IPAs to make sure, like, readjust that like daily checklist of checking in on yourself so that you know what you then need to do?
Yeah, exactly. So when you, like I said, I kind of like to do this quarterly. If you like to do it monthly, that's great too. I'd probably stick to like give yourself enough time to gather that data, but kind of reevaluate. Maybe you hit the goal that you wanted to hit. So you signed your 10 clients, you got your number of downloads. And so now you need to reevaluate not just your KPIs, but also your IPAs. Okay, so I've been doing this, this, and this every day, and it's allowed me to reach this goal. But if I want to double the amount of podcast downloads I want to get, I might need to shift my KPIs a little bit. I might need to branch out on other platforms and start, promoting it in different ways. I might need to increase the number of guests that I bring on my podcast, or people that I collaborate with, or like whatever that looks like, in order to get my name out there. Where before it might have just been, okay, I need to be talking about my podcast more. I need to be posting consistently. I need to, just do these like normal everyday things. You now need to think a little bit higher, and that might change your IPAs. And that's where, if you're feeling like, okay, my IPAs are getting way too overwhelming with the time I have, that's where you start, looking for support, looking for a VA, finding other ways to strategically or simplify your business and scale back in order to focus on those things that will move you forward.
Awesome. So a lot of it is about the math, isn't it? Looking at it and breaking it down, like you said, working out the end goal and then working backwards. And so if it was like you had digital products that you were selling and you knew that you had a certain income goal, you would have to look at the value, the cost of the digital product, and then multiply that to then work out how many you need to sell. And then I suppose it's the same if you've got a membership or a group program of how many people are working out how often people are enrolled and what you can do to bump it. So it's, yeah, you need that data, don't you? So you definitely need to spend some time, especially if you haven't got it to start with. You need to spend that time in the first place, knowing that you're not going to get the answers right away, but it's worth that initial time investment.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say, like, even if you haven't, like, if you are brand new to business and you are just barely starting out, you can still start tracking. Like, just still every day, just keep, a tally of like how many people you talk to, or like even if your podcast is brand new, like start tracking those like downloads or whatever it is that you want to track, just so then that way, when it is time to set those bigger goals, you don't have to spend the time trying to track. You have that data already and you can work from there.
Awesome. I love that. So kind of just spending some time when you first doing setting that goal of brainstorming, okay, what is it that I need to track? What is going to tell me whether or not I'm on the right path? And then when it comes to the IPAs, is that list of like what are the activities that I need to make sure that I'm doing every day, that they're almost those activities that call us out as well, because we look at those lists and they're like the frogs, aren't they, that we look at and think, yeah, we need to do those, but I don't want to do that right now. I'm going to go and do something else. And usually they're the ones that we know are the ones that are moving the needle forward. So it's kind of that like accountability check almost as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's something that I try to do, is like hit those first, because I feel the same way. Like sometimes those things they're not going to be the fun things, they're not always going to be the things that you jump up and you're like, yeah, I'm ready to start my business today and I'm going to go spend an hour in the DMs. Like it's not it's not always the funnest thing to do, but they are the things that are going to move yourself forward. So maybe that means finding some ways to incentivize yourself. Maybe that means, getting it done the very first of the day, so that way you can work on the fun projects, like whatever you got to do, but focus on those IPAs.
No, I love the idea of incentivizing it, because for me, one of the things that always works really well with me is a little bit of bribery. Is like, what can I reward myself with when I've done this, just to try and make it a bit more palatable? Because you're right, some of those things you just look at and you think, but that's not the fun part, I don't want to do that
Yeah.
bit right now, but you know that you need to, in terms to be able to move forward. So yeah, I'm always up for a little bit of incentivizing and bribery, call it whatever you want, but yeah, it
Right.
always works.
Exactly.
Oh, Efra, this has been such a fun conversation. I know I could definitely talk about this a whole lot more. But if they were just sort of finishing up, if there's one piece of advice for somebody that's been listening to all of this and they're just starting out with it, what would be the sort of like final thought thing, advice that you would like to share with them that you think that they could really benefit from?
Yeah, I would say if you are just starting out and this seems overwhelming, just set aside like a CEO day, set aside an hour even, and give yourself the space to just brain dump. Like figure out everything that you're doing right now and then you can work backwards. Because if it feels like it's overwhelming, like you're going to be adding something onto your plate by doing this, then that's the wrong idea, right? We don't want to be overwhelmed by our KPIs or our IPAs. We want them to make our lives easier. So set aside some time, brain dump, get it all out there, and then you can start to process, okay, what am I all doing? Like, is this actually benefiting me? And like sometimes getting it on paper, I know for me, like just it makes it a little bit clearer. Like you either
Mhm.
say, wow, okay, I'm actually like I have this space to take this on. Like I have, it feels like I'm doing a lot, but it's really just boils down to like five things. Or sometimes you really do have like 100 things on your plate and you're like, okay, which of these things can I put on the back burner? Which of these things can I remove for a second so I can focus on this and then I can move forward?
Excellent. Yeah, I think the beauty of getting things down on paper is that being able to see the wood for the trees and everything, isn't it? And it makes such a difference. And then it's easier to get started. That is brilliant. Thank you so much for this. It's been such a fun conversation. I always like to finish up my interviews by asking, what does it mean to be an unapologetic mompreneur to you? And how are you showing up unapologetically every day, both as a mum and as a boss of your business?
Yeah, to me, I feel like it means not like understanding that the two can coincide. You don't just have to be a mom, you don't just have to be a business owner. And the key to that is figuring out how it's going to work for you, right? Like it might look different. Like there are so many mompreneurs out there who are doing the thing and it's so great, but your life might not look exactly like theirs, and that's okay. So figuring out, what is going to work for me in this stage of life, in, how many kids I have to take care of, in their ages, in my other responsibilities. And so to me, it just means like showing up and doing the thing figuring out what's going to work for you. And I think for me, that's exactly what I try to do every day. So even when it sucks and I have sick kids, or I, can't get through a podcast interview without my kids interrupting, like just still showing up and figuring out, learning to be flexible, learning to shift, learning to, every day take what comes, focus on what's important, but also realizing if something doesn't get done, it's okay, and giving yourself that grace.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love that. It definitely all about the grace. And I love that. Yeah, that is just such a great way of looking at it, and just showing up and doing what you can and knowing that tomorrow is another day and we've still got this regardless. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you sharing all of this. And I'm really actually excited to now go and look at my own KPIs and IPAs. But we'll see how we go with those. Where can people find you? And I know that you've got a freebie as well, so we'll make sure that we drop that in the link in the show notes. But yeah, share your social handles and where people can find you, and just tell us a quick second about your freebie as well.
Yeah. So my handle on Instagram is Sierra.Scacco. I am there Monday through Friday every day. So come hang out with me on there. And I do have a freebie called Scale to Success, and it has the 4 secrets to 2 times your clients while working less than 20 hours a week. So really focusing on how can I strategize, simplify, systemize your business to get more done, sign those clients that you want to sign while working less.
Amazing. Definitely go and get that. I will put that in the show notes along with all of your social links and everything as well. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. And I know everybody listening is going to appreciate it too. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining me for another installment of the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. And if you have a moment, I would love for you to leave me a rating and a review so that other mompreneurs can find this podcast too. Here's to unapologetically becoming the mum, wife, biz owner, and woman you know you are meant and deserve to be. I can't wait to chat with you in the next episode. Bye for now.